about World Changer Wednesday this week. You guys, I have a gem today, and every single one of the women that I have interviewed on my channel are jewels in their own right, and Lindsay is incredible, and I'm so excited to be interviewing her today. And we are live right on Facebook. We are live right now on YouTube. And, I want you guys to engage, even if you're watching the replay. Let us know where you're from, where you're watching us from, because I was just talking to Lindsay backstage, and I was telling her, or she was telling me, she's like, I'm in Somerville, Boston, or Massachusetts. Is it Boston, Massachusetts, or in Boston? And she's like, I'm in Somerville. I was like, wow. Like, the way that the internet has connected so many of us across the globe and across the United States is powerful. I don't know if you realize how powerful it is. It's showing us the magnetism that we have within us, and how we are all connected on so many different levels. So, without further ado, I want to introduce my next guest, Miss Lindsay Hunt. I want to tell you a little bit about Lindsay, because she's such a fabulous world changer, and she is the author of the book My Brilliant Money Book for Joyful and Creative Living. She's the co-founder of the world's first International Festival of Erotic Arts, and a business coach for spiritual entrepreneurs. She helps creatives, spiritually oriented business owners get their shit together so that they can make money. That's what I'm talking about. Have fun and share their gifts with the world. So, Lindsay, you are a light and a light worker, and I'm so excited to have you on my show today, sis. Here she is, Lindsay Hunt. Hey, girl.
Hey, hey, Jeremia. I'm so excited to be here with you. Such fun.
I'm so excited too, girl. It's so awesome to have you. Man, I am just so I'm just so elated. I'm like learning all this Be Live, like I was telling you backstage. I'm learning this platform, and it's allowing me to connect on a deeper level with people, and I absolutely love it. So I'm able to get your information on here and who you are, and just so people know how brilliant you are. This is just massive. It's so massive, and I'm so grateful to have you, Lindsay. So much fun. Get me into the consciousness of Lindsay Hunt and the brilliance that is there. Tell us where you started and how your passion for what you do came about.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jeremia. I think all of us at base are spiritual beings who are having a physical experience. And as such, everything in our life is really an opportunity for us to grow spiritually, to evolve, for our souls to evolve. And so I've only been on the spiritual path for a few years, but I can really trace the roots of that back to my childhood. I was an extreme perfectionist as a teenager, super hard driving. And I reached this point where I was kind of like, what's all this about? What is the purpose of all this? And I felt completely disillusioned with all of these, successes that I was having in academics and athletics. And it sort of started to turn me on this other path of trying to look deeper into what is it to be a human being? What is this whole thing about? And so I studied to study psychology. I started to travel and explore the world. I worked as a cycling trip leader in Italy for a few years. And during that time, I came to find meditation. My first meditation retreat, I remember going there, not knowing at all what I was getting myself into, and sitting by myself for 10 hours a day, every day for 10 days straight was just complete torture for me. And I started to look inwards and realize how much I was carrying inside of myself, all of this anxiety and worry and stress, and started to see more clearly how I was creating that within myself. But I had some breakthroughs during that retreat that really fundamentally shifted the way I was interacting with the world. And it was as though for the first time I was starting to observe my own reality as though a weatherman or a biologist might observe the ecosystem of a planet, and starting to witness how my thoughts, my intentions, and my emotions were creating this feedback loop within me that was then creating the reality I was experiencing. So that was a pivotal shift for me, from going from being this hard driving, ambitious, success-oriented person, and then being an explorer, an adventurer, to starting to look more inwards towards myself for this deeper sense of fulfillment and power in my life. And that was about 4 years ago now. And it took me on this path of studying meditation, studying mindfulness very deeply, teaching mindfulness to businesses. But during that time, I felt like I was kind of dissociated from life in hindsight. I was struggling financially. I was super creative and putting things out into the world. Hi, Sharita. Hey. Come in. Hey. Wow. And so I felt so connected in some way, so spiritually tapped in. And I felt like I was starting to connect to something that was so much more profound than anything I had experienced in my life before. And yet the pieces weren't coming together for me. And I remember feeling kind of helpless and hopeless to not just be present with what was happening, but to actually actively, proactively create my life for myself.
Wow.
And so it was both a beautiful period of life, but also a very disorienting and destabilizing point of life. And during this period, about 2 years ago, I hit rock bottom. I was working at a mindfulness startup that was completely failing. It was about to go under. And I was working part-time at a local cafe where I was earning minimum wage, and people from my prestigious university that I went to would come in and they would see me there, and I would both know that it was kind of where I needed to be, but I also felt this shame and frustration with myself of like, why am I not able to get my gifts out into the world in a way that like is sustaining and lucrative and actually helps me to bring my gifts and bring this spiritual connection that I had out into the world that's fruitful for me and for everybody. Yes. So I connected to myself, and I kind of intuitively dropped in and said, what do I need in this moment? And I remember I was in the cafe, like working, making sandwiches, and I just started to cry and just completely broke down. And I had this epiphany that I needed to go see someone who did energy healing work. I made an appointment. I texted her. I said, hey, can I meet with you tomorrow? I got this session with an incredible healer. And that session, that kind of realignment and the path that led me down has opened up a whole nother path of exploration that has sort of begun to bring me back and align me and open me energetically in a way that facilitated learning about business, learning about marketing, welcoming money into my life. And I started to make the decision that I care about being a human. Yes. I care about this human existence. I care about making money. I care about being well in my circumstances, wearing beautiful clothes and having a career that's viable. And I started to bring myself back from this place of basically spiritually bypassing the hell out of myself to really caring about this physical existence and realizing that every single thing that I am learning and growing through business, through this physical human life, is exactly what I need to be learning spiritually, because as above, so below. Everything that we need to learn as souls,
girl, you better talk about it. We learn
it through like the chaos of our relationships. We learn it through the failures of our business. We learn it through learning how to market ourselves. Like all of it's connected. And so this perceived discrepancy that I had between myself as this spiritual being and myself as this human being just started to dissolve and go away. And it facilitated this flow and this building of momentum and this vibrancy in my life that ultimately led me to what I do now, which is business coaching, marketing coaching. And I'm just so thrilled to be supporting other people. You see Tara, see that's resonating with you, and others who might be listening. I'm thrilled to be able to have kind of walked this path to where I am now, and to being a light worker and a spiritual guide, but doing that in a way that is really helping people to bring the structure, the form, the money, the joy of this physical life, and to celebrate that as part of their spiritual path and their evolution as souls and human beings.
Absolutely. Ooh, girl. That was powerful. That was so powerful. I resonate so deeply with that. Just as Tara said, she said, everything that you are saying is resonating with my situation. And, we talked about this before. We are a reflection of each other, and we're all going through the same thing in different ways. And it's so beautiful to see how one person's experience and one person's path can encourage another's. And, I think that we need to share more on these platforms about our ascension and our journeys and the authenticity of them and the quote unquote imperfection of them, even though we are perfect in our divine sense. But there's a path to that. There's a path. It's an alignment to that. And what you're speaking of is so relevant, and it's so vital to what so many of us are dealing with right now. And so the next question that I would have for you is, we talked about, I guess what you would define as failure, because we talked about that. We're divine. We're actually divinely perfect. But everything that we're doing here is attributing to our growth in the lessons that we have and that we go through, and how we see life and how the perspective can change like that. And you can instantly be in a different reality with the thoughts that you think and the words that you speak, because you are a creative being and you create this reality, and you better realize how powerful you are. So
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So that I'm leading into this question. When we talk about failure, how all of these things, come into being because of the foundation of. But I think you even said this, that it doesn't have to take that long. It doesn't have to. We can manifest like this. It can be effortless. And when we come into the knowledge of who we are, we can create like that. It's like we have that magic touch to where it's like you can like turn this to gold like right now, because that's how powerful you are, So in that, tell us some of the things that you learned. Like what were some of the biggest lessons that you learned from something that you seemingly failed at?
Absolutely. Jeremia, give me one moment. I'm going to plug my computer in. I'll be right back, and then I'll come right to your question. Just give me one moment.
No problem. That was a great question, though. Gosh, Tara, this is good. She said, I'm crying. So when you come back, we'll talk about it, Lindsay. Tara said this while you stepped out. She said, gosh, I'm literally crying. So what's going on right now is so powerful. We're connecting at a level that I think the planet it's healing, and it's coming together, it's unifying, and we're realizing how connected we are to one another, and the walls of judgment have come down, and we're able to see each other for who we really are, and that's a powerful thing. for
Yes.
elevation and ascension. So go ahead, Lindsay. Tell us
Yeah.
what
Oh my goodness. So many juicy things to share. So I would like to start by talking about emotions and working with emotions, because I think they are so vital to how we can manifest and create things in our lives. And growing up, I was raised in a household where people were very, not all emotions were truly welcomed. And if I was experiencing pain or difficulty, there's a way that some of the people around me wanted to make me feel better or make everything okay. And so in my own way, I started to actually suppress and not accept having negative emotion within myself. And I didn't realize how much of a blockage that was in my life to actually creating what I wanted, because I have since learned that all emotions are vital and essential. And, you know, emotions are messages from our soul. Emotions are always giving us important information. They're like guideposts that are pointing us in a direction. And, you know, a lot of people, when they think about spirituality, it's like, oh, it's all love, it's all light, it's all goo and flowers and good things and beautiful things. But that's not how this game is played. We were born into a world of contrasting experiences. We were born into a world with war, and we were born into a world with love. We were born into a world with depression and sadness and hopelessness, and we were born into a world with power and joy and abundance. And when we're able to let go of the judgment of that and just experience like all of these things are real and valid experiences, and I perceive and I'm receiving guidance from my soul through my emotions as I navigate this world of contrast. And so instead of going through difficult experiences and sort of blocking myself off from them, I started to realize like I need to feel that shit. Like I need to let myself feel it and know it, and then not to wallow in it, not to kind of get stuck in the emotion, but to allow that emotion to point me in the direction of my progress and my evolution. So I'll give you an example. It's not related to business, but recently I flew down to South America to see a person who I'd been in a long distance relationship with during COVID. This beautiful, soulful, deep human. And I got off the plane. He came to welcome me at the airport. And Jeremia, I looked at him and my gut said, this is not the one for you. This will not work. It will not work, sister. And it was horrible because I had flown all the way down there, gotten all these COVID tests and arranged my whole life to go visit this person. And what I was intuitively perceiving from being in his physical presence, it was like, this does not work. And I won't go into the details, but there were things around, well, some of the details around his health, around his finances, like some of these things that like, he was such a tapped in spiritual being, but he wasn't like grounding it. And there were just these things where I was like, this will not work for me. And Jeremia, I spent the first couple of days there with him feeling so confused and emotional and sad because I was so scared. I didn't want to judge him, but I wasn't really listening to my emotions and what guidance that was giving him. And the moment that I sat down to meditate and do yoga, I could barely even sit with myself. I was so wound up by this whole experience. I started to cry, and I started to instantly, this clarity came, and it was like, here is the clarity. And everything that I'd been perceiving intuitively through my feelings, it suddenly like came into focus, and my creativity came back, my energy came back, my sense of what needed to happen came back. And I actually had some really frank, challenging, but like real conversations where I was speaking the truth and speaking to his higher power and speaking to the bigger part of him, that divine essence of him, but also calling him out on shit and saying, dude, like, look at how you're living. Like, you are bigger than this. You are better than this. And this will not work for me. Like, this won't work for me. And So I guess it's all to say that if you're someone like me who maybe grew up in a place where, or grew up in an environment where everything that you were feeling wasn't welcome, that there is a difference between discernment and judgment. And discernment means allowing ourselves to feel our way through life and listen to that subtle energy that we're perceiving, whether it's a business decision or romantic decision or something else in your life, to tap into that subtle energetic space that you perceive through what you feel and use it, because it's always guiding you and it's always telling you the truth of how the bigger part of you is seeing that situation. And that has just been instrumental for me.
Wow. Girl, I'm just letting all that sink in. Look at these comments. Very powerful. There's flowers and balance symbols. And I would say this is the very definition of balance that you just explained. You're sorting through that contrast and finding the right frequency that resonates with you. And that's all contrast. That's what it is. Like, it's beautiful. Oh my gosh. Like, it's just such a beautiful revelation, what you just explained, because so many of us want that type of clarity, and it just makes sense. What's going on? How are we going to make sense of all of this? And there is a sense. There's definitely a sense of, it's like these aha moments that you get. And that's exactly what the clarity is. It's just,
Right. And that we're all connected to this universal intelligence that is so much bigger than our little minds can comprehend. And so as someone who grew up very intellectual, very analytic, both of my parents have master's degrees from Princeton. They had their shelves are filled with books. They've read so many things. They've learned so many things. And I'm so grateful for that. That has been foundational to my understanding of the world. So not to discount the mind and the power of our intellect, but that when we start to connect and we start to lean in and really trust ourselves and trust that there is a guiding force towards good, the same way that a flower wants to sprout and it naturally turns towards the sun, we are that. We naturally want to thrive and open and share our gifts to the world. And just like a little child doesn't think about the way he or she or they is moving their body, they're just enjoying, they're just dancing with life, and they're following their impulses. And we kind of get that stamped out of us, and we start to adopt the fears of the world around us, because we forget that we don't realize that we are the creators of our own reality, that we create, but we don't create just through the mind as we perceive it. We create through our entire energetic structure. We create through our toes. We create through our hearts. We create through all of that and more. And we create in conjunction with this bigger power and this bigger unifying intelligence that is constantly readjusting and redirecting us towards our greatest joy. And so we don't have to struggle so hard. We don't have to work so hard. We don't have to be on the hamster wheel. We can actually start to relax and enjoy and relish in the pleasure of our bodies and the pleasure of our existence, and use those moments of contrast like bumpers at the bowling alley. Like, that is useful. It is directing you. Like, if you're trying to bowl, you're trying to go towards what you need. Like, you need both of those experiences, but there is a river and a flow of well-being that carries us, and it's really our job to let go of our resistance, which means, when you come across a roadblock in your business or your relationship, it's not just about being like, whatever, I'm going with the flow, I'm just gonna not do anything about it. It's like, no, your job is the inner work always. Your job is to feel, where am I resisting, and how can I allow that to dissolve and move through that resistance. so that I can get back into the flow and get back into the place where things are just coming and moving from a place of ease and grace.
I love how you just said that, because, and I can tell why you're the co-founder of this festival. Girl, I'm sorry, but it shows up, because if you don't understand the power of life force energy,
yes,
this is how you become so articulate with your words. It's how you become so. It's almost like a dancer. It's like this energy that you're able to bring off with how you speak, and it's beautiful, and I'm resonating with it, and that's what I'm saying. I want to know about how you co-founded this and who the other person was, because I think people need to understand how powerful sexual energy is. And you know that song, sexual healing, it's something that's real though. There's healing, and I really want to hear from your perspective, what inspired that, and how you're kind of turning that into a business model, because you've been able to transform something that was spiritual and monetize it and make it impactful for the people that are utilizing your services. So I think it's really powerful for people to understand where that came from.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think the roots of this journey for me really go back to when I was a kid and how I was raised as well. I remember the first time that I remember having shame around my sexuality was I was probably 6 years old or so, and my parents were having a dinner party. They had their friends sitting on the couch. We were all eating hors d'oeuvres, and I remember, maybe I was even less than 6, as a 5, 6-year-old. I was very playful and frolicky with my body, if that's even a word. And there was this beautiful red plush armchair that we had that I used to get on top of and flip upside down. And so I went to the armchair with my parents and their friends sitting, drinking wine, eating. And I kicked up into my head was on the base and my legs were up over my head. So I was kind of doing a modified headstand on this chair. My dress fell down over my body, and I guess I wasn't wearing any underwear, because the parents in the room, I just emotionally remember there was this sense of shame that pervaded the room, and everyone was so uncomfortable with it. And I just remember feeling it was the first time that I remember thinking oh, this part of my body, my vagina, this part of me is off limits. This is not okay. This cannot be seen. This is shameful. This is wrong. And I just viscerally remember how I started to feel shame around that part of my body and that element of myself, even as a kid, I remember being sexual. And this is not terribly unusual, because I study psychology, human sexuality. Yeah. We're sexual beings, and that sexual energy is present in everything. It's the energy of polarity. It's the energy of magnetism. And we experience that even as little children. So I remember always kind of knowing that I was a sexual being, but feeling a lot of shame around it, and feeling a lot of the need to contain it or control it. And then, going into my actual sexual life as a teenager and young adult, I still grappled with feelings of shame and feelings of disconnect from my body, and not really being able to tap into my own pleasure and my own joy. And on my spiritual journey and my deeper exploration into myself, I started to recognize how essential that sexual energy was for creativity and abundance, and really to be able to ground me. And even when we think physically about where our sexual organs are in our body, the chakra system, that's sacral chakra, root chakra, that is the opposite of this kind of elevated, airy-fairy, spirituality up in the clouds that we think of. And I started to realize whoa, this is a place that I have grappled with, and I have cut off. So it's been a huge journey of healing and reintegration for me to welcome that back into my life. And the inspiration for this festival in particular came during the start of the COVID epidemic. Everything was turned online, and a friend of mine invited me to an online, it's called, how to describe it? It's like a hybrid between an erotic party and a dance party and a live TV program that's airing as you watch it. So wow. I went to this thing hosted by a group in Chile called the Festival of Chile. And it was just this explosion of craziness and creativity and expression and kink. And it was so invigorating because it was helping me like break out of all of these boxes that I had put myself and my sexuality into. And that was the inspiration for this festival as a festival of healing and a celebration of creativity and a celebration of sexual energy.
I love it. I love it. That is so powerful. And I'm getting a visualization as you're saying that, you know, with all of the different expressions, the colors, the vibrancy, like that's life force energy.
Yes.
That's God energy. And you know, it's like we put God in a box as if God can't express who we are, because God is living in us, through us, as us.
Yes.
So, you know, we're perfect representations of God in the flesh. And so I love what you're doing. I want you to tell people how they would experience working with you. And we have about 7 minutes left. I want you to give them a picture of what it would be like to be working with Lindsay and how they would expand from your teachings.
Great. So as you know, Jeremia, I'm a multi-passionate entrepreneur, so I have my hands in a few different things, but what I'm most excited about right now that I touched on at the beginning is business coaching and marketing coaching and consulting. So I work with individuals. I also work with companies and nonprofits as clients. And where I think that I really shine and what I can really help people with is, you know, for people who are creatives, people who are spiritually oriented, and maybe, you know, you don't quite know how to put the pieces together, and you feel like you want to bring your gifts out into the world, but you haven't figured out a form and a structure, and you kind of know that you're missing that. Like, hello, that was me a couple years ago, and that has just been such an impactful journey for me. So I really specialize in working with people who are gifted in the energetic, the intuitive, the healing, the creative side of things, and then helping to work with them to give them the tools, the form, the structure, and the strategy to help make their business sustainable, lucrative, easeful, joyful. And so I combine this very strategic orientation towards business with this more intuitive and energetic understanding. So I'm never gonna be pushing a boulder uphill. I'm always looking for what's the low hanging fruit, what's the path of least resistance, what's the way that this business or this person wants to come out into the world that is gonna best suit them, and then how can we work with the marketing, the SEO, the copywriting? How can I help give you those skills and help you construct the skeleton and the structure for your business to actually be generative for you, and for you to flourish and play to your strengths. So it's that combination of the kind of intuitive healing light work with the business strategy, the marketing, and the coaching in that way.
I love it. That's so great. Where can they find you, Lindsay, if they want to get a hold of you?
Yeah. So my website is lindsayderekhunt.com. So Lindsay, Lindsey, DERRICKHUNT.com. And I have information about my energy healing work too, the book that I wrote, as well as the business coaching.
Fantastic. I'm going to write I have everything written here, and I didn't get to post it, so I want to post it real quick.
Great.
And so it's lindsayhunt.com, right?
Lindsay Derek Hunt. So that's my middle name in there too.
Oh, that's right. Lindsay. It would have normally been scrolling.
No
But
worries.
because I'm trying to remember how to do all this stuff right now.
Yeah. And you know, the main thing, Jeremy, that's coming alive for me right now is if you're watching this and you're a creative, you're a business person who has maybe struggled with these things that I've talked about, you can do it. You absolutely can do it. And I know because I've been through that journey, and your gifts matter, your voice matters, what you have to share through your business matters, you making money matters, and all of that is valid and real and possible for you. And it's an energetic game. It's the inner game first, always, but not to discount like learning about the world and taking the steps and getting the support that you need. And just that I believe in you and you can do it. And I'm happy to support, officially or unofficially, anybody who's on that journey.
That's awesome. Lindsay, again, thank you so much for again taking time with me today. Your story is so powerful, and there's already people resonating with what you were saying, and I'm just excited for your work in this world, and very humbled that I was able to meet you today, and exchange this energy. I feel like there's an energy exchange every single time I get to do one of these interviews. Like, I get to benefit from everything that you're telling me, and it's like we just reflect and we exchange, just like we were kind of saying before. But it's wonderful, and I'm excited and grateful. So you guys, if you wanted to connect with Lindsay, go to her website, lindsayderekhunt.com. And they can email you too as well. Do you have an email?
Yep. So Lindsay, Lindsey at lindsayderekhunt.com.
That's it. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching the replay, make sure you guys go and check us out on YouTube. Our brand new YouTube channel is World Changer Wednesday. Follow us on Instagram at World Changer Wednesday. And I'm your host again, Jeremy Renee, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Jeremy. Oh,
Bye, girl.
Bye.